Hey Dude,
The 90s Called
with Christine Taylor and David Lascher. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Hey Dude, The 90s Called. I'm Christine, if you don't know that by now.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, David.
What's up?
We had a big college graduation this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations.
College graduation. Ella graduated from Juilliard, and it was amazing. You know, it was just, it was a beautiful day in New York City. It was at Lincoln Center. It was beautiful.
Oh, my gosh.
A magical moment. So that was our highlight. And then Quinn graduates high school this weekend. So we've got back-to-back graduations. Lots of cap and gown photos happening in our household.
I know, but it's all such good, positive stuff. You know, when you see your child graduate from college, it's like, I mean, you're not officially done as a parent, but it's like, okay, I've done my job.
My God, yes. It's like that. And also like the pride of them, of her doing her job, you know?
Right.
I mean, because we as parents also suffer through their suffering through the process, right?
Are they going to make it?
You hear all those days where it's like, I can't do this anymore. This is too much.
Right.
This I don't love this. This is this, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like it's a sort of like a collective moment of celebration for a family, right? To celebrate that together.
Oh, congratulations to you. And please tell Ella I said congrats. So amazing.
Of course I will. Yes. But we have our guest is in the waiting room, and I just want to give a little brief intro that Rachel Ticotin is a great friend of mine. I haven't seen her in a couple of years, but I met her through her husband who I worked with, but she's amazing. And when I was looking at her credits, I was like, I just knew she was going to be an amazing storyteller. She's been working since the 80s all the way through and did huge movies in the 90s. And I just know she's going to have amazing stories. So I wanted her to come on.
Yeah, her 90s cred is almost unmatchable.
It is unmatchable.
I mean, the movies that she's done. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to her.
And she'll not even give herself credit for it either. So just wait. You'll see.
Okay.
But let's invite her in. Hi, Rachel. Look at you, gorgeous. David, yeah, I know this. We haven't seen each other in almost 2 years, and this is our first time seeing each other's faces. We had a breakfast at a diner on the Upper West Side 2 years ago, because when I texted
I know,
you,
when you said 2 years ago, I was like, this is wrong.
That's wrong.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Rachel, welcome to our podcast. I'm going to give you a little background on David and I. David and I have history.
Oh, are you?
David and I did a TV show in the early 90s called Hey Dude. It was on Nickelodeon. We were teenagers, and it shot in Tucson, Arizona. And we were co-stars on that show. And now, all these years later, we're co-hosting this together. And we talk a lot about the good old days in our lives because we dated each other when we did the TV show.
God, you guys are evolved.
It took some time, but yes, we have.
I'm proud of you.
30 plus years later.
No, now we're like best friends again. You know, we're like family.
That's so great.
We're fam. We're fam now. But you, to me, are family as well.
It's the weirdest thing, our connection.
Yeah. What is your connection?
Tell the story.
Christine was doing a movie that my husband was in. My husband, Peter Strauss, is also an actor.
Oh,
and
wow.
they really hit it off. And they really hit it off with a nickname that they called each other. Can I say it on this?
Yeah, of course. But it was his nickname for me. I did not call him.
That sounds even worse. But the nickname was, hey, shithead. Instead of hey, dude, it was hey, shithead.
Like from The Jerk.
Yeah. I was like, what did I do to earn that?
And I don't understand. I was like, you said that to her? He was like, she's fine with it. I was like, all right, well, okay. And then I met you and I was like, God, she seems so nice. I really like her. And then I think I'm not quite sure how it evolved, how we furthered it to the extent that Peter's not involved at all.
No.
And it's me and Christine. And it was with Ella because Ella was interested in performing. And
Correct.
that's the thing that I remember, but I don't remember how that all happened.
Yes.
And I was co-directing, and I still do, this show at the LaGuardia High School for the Performing Arts, the Fame High School.
Yes.
And I invited them to the shows. And then they were like, when's next year? And then I was like, okay, all right, well, yeah.
Yes, that's exactly the story. We did this movie, but when we really met was in the movie. Did a location shoot at the very end in Jamaica, right?
Right.
And we all went to Jamaica. Very odd movie that nobody saw, nobody remembers, with Mandy Moore, John Krasinski, Robin Williams.
What do you mean nobody saw that movie with that cast?
No one saw it.
You mean the movie called License to Wed? About
that's right. I was trying to remember.
Robin Williams was a priest who was trying to sort of put this couple to be. John Krasinski, Mandy Moore. I played her older sister. Peter played her father. So I played Peter's daughter, the shithead that he called me. And it was a weird movie because he played a priest, and there was, it was sort of this weird comedy. There was an altar boy who also, they tried to put a wedge between the couple to see if the couple could really last.
And yes.
And it was not, it wasn't the world's greatest movie. I'm just going to say it. Met
but
the world's greatest people. Met the world's greatest people.
And kudos to that casting director. They did their job.
They sure did. They did. Listen, look, the fact that you guys are doing this is because you worked together years ago. The thing about, when we're the public, we're just looking, if we don't know the people that we're watching, we're just looking at the experience that we're seeing, but we have no idea what the background is, what's going on, how people are really getting along, how they're not getting along, or how, friendships and relationships and marriages start from this. And so it's such a weird experience, that experience of working on a show or a film or a play. The public has no idea that everyone's human.
Yeah. And the relationships that are formed and the experience of filming it are sometimes way more powerful than the product that you put out.
Can I just say they're always more powerful?
Well,
no, they really are, because it doesn't really matter what the film is. You could quantify it by or qualify it by money. Well, it made a lot of money, therefore it's really important. It's maybe that's not is that the quantifier? I think it's, how much love did it create? I would say that's the best quantifier. So, maybe, on that film, a lot of love was created by friendships and relationships and working or whatever. But it's such a weird thing when you watch something. Yeah. You just think, oh, it's just that. And then I'm like, oh God, they look like, ugh. That must have been. Yeah. Or what a nice place to shoot in,
always, right?
Yeah, Jamaica. I mean, seriously, no one saw the movie, but you guys had a nice time in Jamaica, I'm sure.
Free trip, right?
That's the thing about the 90s versus the 2020s. The location stuff has shifted.
Yeah.
There's no more exciting. You're going to go to where? No, Toronto, Florida, New Mexico,
Atlanta.
Vancouver, still.
Right.
Vancouver. Nothing against those places, but man, it would be nice if we were on the Riviera. Well, that's not.
Well, I'll tell you, Christine has heard about this a million times, but I did a movie called White Squall for Ridley Scott, and we did 10 weeks in the Caribbean, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Grenada. Then we went to London. Then we went to Malta for 6 weeks. And then we went to Cape Town, South Africa. All for one movie.
In the 90s.
And you went to all of those places? You're telling everybody?
Oh, yeah. It was eight guys, Ryan Philippe and Scott Wolf and Jeremy Sisto and a great
Jeff
group
Bridges.
of Jeff Bridges, yeah. But yeah, those shoots, they don't happen anymore.
No, but they did happen in the 90s.
Yeah.
They did.
That was a good thing of the 90s. I've been actually thinking about this since we talked, Christine. I'm like, what the heck did happen?
I know that's what most of our guests say. Like, you really expect me to remember it?
Oh, good. I'm so glad everybody's saying that because I was really sort of like, when did the iPhone come out?
Right, right.
No, I'm excited to talk about the movies you did in the 90s because, I mean, talk about making an impact. You had movies that everyone saw and still watches. So, Christine,
like
let's go.
That again, that's that same experience of like, okay,
I know.
whatever. Like that's not my experience. My experience is not that it's a big deal. My experience is, where did my daughter go to school? Did I meet that's when I met my husband. Like,
Right.
like it's like all that it's the life stuff. And
you're right. That's actually so true, the way you track those things, because we are like, oh yeah, I did do that movie, but at the time I was going through the worst breakup, or at the time I was falling in love, or I was pregnant, or I was getting engaged. You're so right that you look at those life markers.
But of course,
where you were.
People in the public don't want to. They're like, what do I care? I want to know, like, what was it like working with it? And it's like, it's arduous. It's long hours. There's nothing glamorous about it. I say it all the time. When people are like, how, like, what was it like working with John Malkovich and Nicolas Cage on Con Air? And I was like, it was a gig. Like, they were nice, like
a lot of guys, a lot of dudes.
I do have to say that the one thing about Con Air that was like totally, totally perfect was that I had just met Peter then, or a few years before. And Peter, my husband, has two sons, my stepsons. And Con Air was quite the set to invite them to, because they would come to the set and some guy would be lit on fire, some hand would be cut. They were like, this is the greatest thing ever, and I was like, this is disgusting. And Peter's like trying to get them to come to his set. And they're like, no, we'd rather go to Rachel's. It's fine. Bye.
Yeah. Peter's set where it's just like a drama, or just a lot of people talking.
What's that? Give me burning figures. Yes.
But you started, first of all, I mean, I know a lot of your story because we've spent a lot of time together, but you're a born and raised in New York, right? The Bronx.
Yes.
And a performer, ballet dancer from the time you were so little, right?
Yep.
It was always in your blood. And just tell us a little bit about that, because just remind me too. Your mom, your family was in the arts and a lot.
Well,
yes,
my family everybody's a ham. Let's just put it that way. But my mother, I come from. There were no words to describe how I grew up. There are words now, but when I grew up, it was really kind of complicated to explain to people that my father was Jewish and my mother was Puerto Rican. They knew if they were in New York, they would know those two groups. But you start going around the country, and it's like, where's Puerto Rico? What is Puerto Rico? What do they speak another language? Like it's another world. So we grew up and we were 6 kids. And my mom found out from a friend of hers about this program in the summer where we got lunch and we had ballet class, boys class, African dance class, and flamenco class, and free lunch. My mother was like, okay, 5 of you are going in. So we all went. And that's sort of how it started. And that, they don't really have those programs anymore. That is a thing of another time also. Or if they do, it's not the same thing. And so all of us, my brother, David, is a production manager and an AD. He has done every gigantic, humongous action film from I can't think of what was Zero Dark 30. That I was like, started with this.
Wow, he first ADs that?
He's been a first AD to like gigantic.
Let me just say for our listeners, the first AD on a movie is the leader of the ship, the most competent person in the entire set. It's a very hard job.
If it's not someone who's good, the movie is a disaster. If it's someone who's great, things run smoothly, right?
And when you have movies like that, like Zero Dark 30, these are gigantic things. It's like a million different shooting units. It's not even just one
Oh my God, the helicopter crash going into Bin Laden's.
It's so much stuff. So he has graduated from AD to now production manager, though he does AD work still because he's sort of,
I'm sure he has directors who want him.
Yeah, and he has lots of directors who still want him, but
Right.
it's really hard on you because you are
Oh.
out there all the time. You do not have a break.
Right.
First AD is really hard. So anyway, David went into that, whereas he and I actually started in film production because when I finished that program in the summer, me and my sister also, we then later became founding members of Ballet Marigot Dance Company, which is a dance company that still exists here in New York. And then I went and became an actress. And while I was trying to make money during that time, I started working as a production assistant on film. So you will see my credit on Raging Bull. There says Raging Bull.
Wait,
Whoa,
we just watched. I didn't know that until I was looking at your bio. But I didn't know that. And we just showed that movie to Quinn like 2 weeks ago.
What did Quinn feel?
He loved the performances.
Yes.
For him, and he also he loves a lot of Scorcese movies. He felt like for him, a little slow, not the most lovable character.
Was it the black and white? Did he mind the black and white?
No, he didn't mind the black and white. Though that put him off for years. Like in his early high school years, he was like, "No, I don't really want to watch that. Black and white, black and white." Yep. That didn't bug him, but he was like, "It's just he's not the most lovable character that you." And it's a smidge long. Like he had real good, like it's interesting to hear this generation.
That's why I'm asking, because I find that, when people, what was lauded then, that's why when movies, I did a film a bazillion years ago called Man on Fire, which you might have seen. I don't know.
Of course.
Denzel.
But let me tell you, Man on Fire and Something's Gotta Give, which most women just love that film. But
I love that film.
Movies, they still work. Like you watch it, I turn the channel and I stay because I'm like, this still works. These movies, they're not dated. And, perhaps Raging Bull is a little dated, it just happens. There are sometimes things that, transcend time in a different weird way. Anyway.
Yes, exactly. I can't believe I missed your credit on that. Damn.
That's insane. You were a production assistant on Raging Bull. I mean, that's like part of history.
Can I tell you, this is what I did. I was doing whatever was necessary on the set, but it was a very different time. And also the way Scorsese ran that set was the actors, for those of you out there, the way a movie usually shoots is the crew's there, the actors come in, they do their rehearsal, they block, which means they plan out where they're going to move. And the camera people look at where they have to move the camera to. And the cinematographer works at where he has to place the camera and the lights to see where the camera, so you can see where the camera is going. And everybody's there doing everything at the same time. On that film, the actors worked on the weekends. They rehearsed on the weekends. So they came in and they rehearsed in the set, in the apartment, in the house, wherever the location was. So when they came on the day, the entire crew had to leave the room. Everyone left except for the script supervisor, the DP, the cinematographer, director of photography, and the director and the gaffer, who is the person who runs that's it. No one else was allowed. The actors did their thing. Then they would leave. Then they would call the whole crew in. And then those department heads, the cinematographer, the gaffer, the head of the electrical, and the script would tell all the people who needed, the script would say to hair and makeup, the hair has to match this scene from blah, 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 blah. They would set up, it was very, very different. And then when they would shoot, the whole crew would leave again, and the actors would come in just with the minimal amount of people there. So it really felt like you were not doing a movie. You felt like you were really living through this experience. Anyway, that was that set. And at the end, when we were wrapping it up, my job was to go through all the props because they were then going to do True Confessions, which was also set in 1940, which was Robert Duvall and Robert De Niro.
Yes.
And they didn't want to pay for the ashtrays or the buckets or the chairs or the desks or the lamps that were period again. So that was my job. I went through a huge warehouse.
To transfer all of the props to the new movie.
Writing down.
Oh my God.
That is this
armchair,
day,
orange armchair.
My least favorite job in the world was that part.
Ooh.
Yeah, but I mean, it is one of probably, maybe if not the greatest, one of the greatest films of all time.
It is really one of the greatest films. But I have to tell you that none of the actors knew that I was studying acting. So then when I got my first big film, which was Fort Apache The Bronx with Paul Newman, that was, I think, 1980. Kathy Moriarty, who had played the wife
in Raging Bull,
Joe Pesci. De Niro, I didn't see again, but I saw Joe Pesci again, and I saw Kathy Moriarty, and they were like, "Holy shit! What the?"
Production assistant now in the movie with us. That's so cool.
That's so cool.
It was also nice because it was the same crew. It was the same, the crew in New York was very small at that point. There weren't as many things being shot. So I was working with a lot of the same people who were like, "Oh my God, it's freezing." And I was like, "Yep, I got a dressing room and I can go right to it. See you guys."
I'm not standing outside.
What happens when you become an actor?
Wait, what was the process of getting cast in that film for you?
In Fort Apache?
Yeah.
It was, as they call in show business, they call them cattle calls because you feel like a cattle. You're amongst other people. There was just a thing that was put out in the trades, which are newspapers that they used to have. I think they may have them now, but I'm sure they're all online, where they would say, looking for blah, 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 blah. So
certain type, right?
Certain type. And they were having a problem finding someone who had credits already because there weren't that many jobs for Latino actors. There certainly weren't any jobs for Latino Jewish actors. So anyway, I went in amongst thousands and I had 7 callbacks.
Oh gosh.
I know.
Wow.
And the last one, I told the director, I was like, "I'm not doing this again. Like, you have to make a decision. Like,
When was the last one? Just with the director, or did you at any point?
It was with the director. Did I meet Paul? I think I met him in passing because I was 21.
Oh
I was
my God.
21 and he was 55. Yeah.
And one of the greatest actors of all time.
I got to tell you, it was the weirdest thing because I didn't really see all of his films till afterwards, but his face was just so recognizable to me.
Yeah.
And he was the classiest person I ever worked with. He was the most, people would come up all the time, because we were on, New York City streets asking for an autograph. And he would say, "You know what? I'll buy you a beer." And no one ever took him up on it. Like, I think they were all sort of like, "Wait, what?" They never did.
Paul Newman wants to buy me a beer.
Like, that was good enough for them, He was the nicest person. The first big scene that I had, he contacted me and he said, "What say you and I get in the car we're going to shoot," because it was a scene in a car, "and let's get to the set before everybody else. We'll have, they'll set it up for us, and let's just drive around the neighborhood and do the scene." Because he knew how nervous I was.
Well, my God, I was going to say, that was your first big thing, and you're working with the biggest movie star.
And he wanted to settle
time.
you. Oh my God, he's an actor's actor, man.
He had there was security that it wasn't like a thing. It wasn't like it is now. There wasn't paparazzi everywhere. We were in the South Bronx. It was like there were no iPhones, no taking pictures. It was a whole different world. And he was the classiest person. The classiest. I've never worked with anybody like that. He was really great. And everything that he did there, after starting the whole Ronald McDonald House, you're like, all the salad dressings, you're like, yes, I was like, this makes perfect sense. That's the person I work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Class
really.
act. What a great way to start your career, though.
Yeah.
My gosh.
It really was. And it felt really comfortable because I was around so many friends because I'd worked with all of them on sets. I'd been doing, lots of stuff. And actually, even after Fort Apache, I didn't get work for a while. And I needed someone called and said, do you want to work as a PA on this? And I was like, yes, because I needed the money. And the movie was Reds.
Oh my
Oh my
God.
God. Are
And so
you
I
kidding?
worked on that. And all of a sudden, and I'm like,
Ben is going to die when he hears I can't believe he's
I'm just schlepping coffee, running around, getting whatever. They were just shooting a few days. And someone said, Mr. Beatty wants to talk to you. So I go over and he goes, are you the girl that was in Fort Apache?
That's
And
great.
Diane Keaton was right there. And she was like, are you? And I was like, yes. And they were like, what the heck are you doing here? I was like, well, I needed money. They were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. This is the business for some of us.
this is the business. And I
Right.
done another film that called Daniel, which was a film with Sidney Lumet film. I can't remember who was in it, but David Mamet was the writer. And he was on the set and he recognized me and he just came over to me and we had this really intense conversation because he said, this is the business. It makes sense to me that you're here because the business is not the world that people think out there. It's more complicated. He was really great. Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's no ego involved, right? You just want to be around it and just be on a set and working.
I needed to make money. So at that point I was like, well, I can make money that way. You know, like if somebody needed me to take care of their kids, I would have been like, fine. You know, like you do what you have to do.
Were you living with any of your siblings or roommates? Like what was, I always love knowing.
I had two roommates and, you know, like they I don't like a lot of attention on me. So they know not to make a big deal over it. And if they do it without me being in the room, you know, so everything is normal, you know, it's just a normal thing. But David did go on to become an AD. So that was a great thing. So my mom will always say, oh, we saw David's name in something, but she will never say, we saw you in something because I don't want to hear it. Also impossible. Like I said, actors, we're very sensitive. Very sensitive. Anyway, so all that, like things just fall into place in some way. I came out to LA. I did my first TV series, which got canceled. And, you know, I just started living in Los Angeles.
But was that a deliberate move or did you move for the series? Because I know a lot of people. Yeah, you did.
And then I stayed. And then, you know, life just takes over and you have life and you get married and you have kids and you know, like you start this whole thing and, you know, but my whole family was still on the East Coast. David didn't move out till a ways after. So I've just always been California, New York, just going back and forth and California. As you guys know, do you live in LA?
David's in LA. Yeah.
Yes, I'm in LA.
Yeah. So like, and you've been there for a while. Yes.
Right after high school. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you
raise
know
my
how
kids.
much it's changed. It's like, you know, do you know Steve Guttenberg?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of his. I'm not
personally.
He's a great storyteller. He was saying to me the other day, he was like, because he and my husband are friends, he was like, LA, no one was rich in LA. Like there'd be a few producers that were rich, but like that was it. But like now it's like, what the heck happened to this city? The whole thing has changed and everything's, you know, like this and that. It
is true. It's it's a little different.
It's a different place. And so I think the more that it changed, the more I wanted to come out here too. And then I started directing those shows at LaGuardia. But getting back to the 90s, I did a TV series. I did a bunch of films. I made great friends.
Wait, when you said, so because you did the movie, then you started Fort Apache, and then you were back to PAing, and then you were just back into audition mode, I assume?
Yes.
So for Total Recall, was that just an audition?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, of course. That was an audition.
It's so great. And then, but did you ever get, and I want to hear about that too, but did you ever get to that point where you were getting offered things?
The first offer I ever got was after Total Recall. Did I get anything after before that? FX2, which was a film with Brian.
Oh, I remember. Yes, I remember.
And, you know, like they're like dear friends. You know, like you know, I have to say that there haven't been that many offers. And in truth, I really like to audition because something happens when you audition also, which is that you see how you're connected to it, how you connect to the material. And you're doing work that sometimes you don't have the time to do once you get the job. So you're focusing in on like a scene, right? Like you're focusing in on this scene in a way that, you've got it in the old days when you had it for 2 weeks. Now you have it for half an hour. But, you had the material for 2 weeks and you were working on it so that when you were going into the audition, you were like cracking. You really knew your work. Now, sometimes you don't have that much time and then you get into the set and you still haven't had because they've changed something. And then it's like, okay, we're going to do that. Like the schedule gets, discombobulated. But yeah, no, I haven't been offered a lot and I don't have a problem with that. I only ask to be offered something if it's something I've done enough times. If I've done the character enough times, I'm like, I think that they see that I've done that 5 times. So will they make a decision on that? I'll come and meet them. That's not a problem.
Total Recall was such a groundbreaking movie. It was like, no one had ever seen anything like that at the time. And you play such a strong woman. And, at the time, you watched that movie, or I did. I had just moved out, or I was just about to move to LA. And I thought, how does one make that movie? Like, how is it even possible?
It's so funny because when you're in it, you're not thinking that. You're just sort of, where do I go? Okay, what's that?
But when you read the script,
I am not a science fiction person. So to tell you the truth, I didn't understand any of it.
That's what I mean. There's a lot of people that would have just been like, I don't quite get it, but it's a great role.
I didn't get it then. I didn't get it then. I don't get it now. The only thing I think of with that film on a daily basis, how in New York, when you walk by those screens that are like above the train station, or they actually have them now on the sidewalk, and it'll say, it's an advertisement for something, or it's news, or it's a weather report, or it's whatever. I look at that and I go, holy shit, they had that in that movie.
Right.
Yes.
And I remember when they had that, and I was like, what is that? And they were like, this is that they're saying in the future. And I was like, never happened.
This is the future.
Totally happened. It completely happens.
Totally.
That science fiction, it's still not my thing. But those people who write science fiction, they really are thinking ahead with information. It's not like pie in the sky, which is what I thought. I was like, this is so
made up, right?
I'm telling a story about other planets. We're not going there.
Yeah, I remember seeing Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise do an interview when Minority Report came out. And I remember Steven Spielberg saying, I met with futurists for months talking about what the technology is and what it's going to be so that we were living in. So it was based in reality, even though we don't have hover cars, but the eye, recognition, those things that didn't exist.
Or moving things with your finger,
all of that. Yes, the swiping.
We're all doing all of that. I can't tell you when I was listening to some podcast. Sorry, I listened to another podcast. And they were talking about the driverless cabs in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I just was like, we're there. We're there.
Yeah, I've seen those in Austin, Texas. It's very weird. I would never get into a driverless cab, ever.
Never.
But then you know what, David? Wait, 10 years from now, it'll be like, yeah, no, I take them all the time.
Probably. Elon Musk has a company called Neuralink.
Yep.
Have you heard of this?
Yep.
Christine, he spends 90% of his time on Neuralink. He's not even involved in Tesla, really. But it's connecting brains to computer software. And they had a guy the other day playing chess with his mind, not moving anything, but thinking about where he wanted to move the chess pieces.
This is where my brain starts to short circuit, even trying to imagine that.
No, but I can't imagine the danger this creates. Like, what if you're upset with a person and you want something to happen to them?
Right, but he's also saying that he's going to cure. He can cure blindness and deafness and regenerate the mind through computer software. I don't know.
And also, I'm pretty sure it's not him coming up with the invention, right? He's the one who is
Funding it.
doing it and organizing it. He's not the inventor of these things.
Well, I think he is the brainchild behind it. But yeah, he's probably got the greatest computer science.
Futurists.
And doctors. Yeah, I don't
Steve
know.
knows the word. It's futurists.
Is that a career?
That's what I thought. I remember saying
In the future it is.
I believe Steven Spielberg. I never heard of that, but that's cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So going back to Total Recall, you had no idea. You're on the movie. You're just getting like stunt choreographed scenes to do, and you're just showing up.
I was a dancer. So for me, my least favorite part of acting was always, sitting around and talking. I'm like, oh, are we going to move? Are we going to do something? So that was like, great, let's run. I was like, I'm into it. Like it made a lot of sense to me because I was a tomboy and I like moving around, It didn't feel like when you were saying that, David, about like you'd never seen anything like it. I was like, is that true? Like, what was it real? I don't know what was groundbreaking about it. I don't know.
I remember my brother was upset. You and Brian are like a year apart, or you know what I mean? I just remember the obsession with that movie. It was just, it really was. It was like everybody was freaking out over it.
Yeah, it was Terminator a few years before, and then Total Recall in 1990 just blew everyone's mind. I mean, Paul Verhoeven, what was it like working with Paul and with Arnold?
Well, it was great. Like everybody was professional. Everybody was great. Everybody was had clear idea. The worst thing is when you work with people who don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And have no clue as to how to get what they want. Like that's where you just, as you're an actor, you're just standing there going, oh, this is going to take forever.
Right. Who's leading this thing?
Yeah, who's leading this? And that wasn't the case there. They really knew what they were doing, as was, the FX2 Con Air also was, they knew what they were doing. Tony Scott in Man
on Fire. Yeah.
Really knew what he was doing. He was really specific. And again, that I was older. And so that's more my oeuvre, the word for like, that's my genre that I'm more interested in, me as an audience. So what he did with film in shooting that film, and how the story worked with those strange sort of film techniques that he did in Man on Fire.
Yeah.
I really responded to that. Like, it was like a big deal. But he, he really knew what he was doing also. Nancy Meyers also. She knows what she's doing. She's like, let's do it again. She does a million takes and I'm like, who cares? Like, let's keep going. Like, it doesn't matter. Let's just, I'm with Jack Nicholson and I kept thinking, is he gonna like say... Maybe 25 is enough. Never.
Wow.
A lot of takes too. He was great.
Do you personally, I want to ask this of more actors that we have on, and I talked to Ben about it too, because he's worked with directors who want to do 50 takes, and you have to say every single ounce of dialogue, exactly the same. Then he's been on films where, it's comedy and you just get to improvise and do 20 takes and do something different every time. Do you feel like as an actor doing that many takes, you get better or you get burnt out or you start to doubt yourself? Like, because I think 50 takes for me, I would start to go into probably meltdown. It's all of it.
Yeah, but it's all of it. Because then you get to, it's like if you've ever done a play, you gotta crank that out 8 days a week. You're like, on the 40th time, you're like, I don't know how else to do this. And it's like, well, you got to figure out something. And so you just, all of a sudden you work harder and then you're like, wow, I really would never have guessed that I could have understood that from that way. And it's a weird.
Or find another gear, right? In a weird way.
Like shifting into another thing.
Right.
Well, that was really interesting. I mean, it is a practice, acting. Yeah. It's a practice. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. So people who get opportunity after opportunity, they will get better. And if they don't, they should be fired. That's all I have to say. They should never get work again. There's some that I watch them and I'm like, Isn't getting work.
That's an interesting question, though, because exhaustion could set in too, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
just the fatigue of doing the same scene over and over.
Yeah. But you have to come up with another idea so that you're like, okay, I'm not doing it. Because the truth of the matter is that we all know doing a dining scene is like, it's like a death.
Oh, gosh. Directing a dining scene is a nightmare.
It's got to be horrible. And for you in the public, you want to explain why a dining scene is horrible? Do you guys want to explain?
You have to match every bite, every sip. You have to cover the entire table.
Let's say you've got 6 people around this table and you need close-ups of each one doing the entire scene. So let's say everybody gets 5 takes. So that's at least 30 takes of the same scene over and over again, whether the camera's on you or not. You're still having to do it, right?
And if you took a bite in the master, you better remember, you need a good script supervisor for a dinner scene.
You have to remember where you're sipping, eating, nibbling.
My biggest pet peeve in those dining scenes too is when you see the choice of the actor to make the commitment to not eat. And unless it's written into the script where they just didn't want to be eating it that many times.
No actor ever eats. When an actor eats in a scene.
And I see it. I look for it. I look for it the way I look at extras. I look at extras.
So much respect.
I look at background artists in every movie and I'm like, oh my God, look at how over the top that guy is. We all see it.
Yes, absolutely.
You said it. We can't watch movies the same way that regular audience members can watch movies.
And so when somebody's doing a dining scene and they're really eating, I get my stomach gets sick because I'm like, oh God, I had to do that.
How many cheeseburgers?
Oh, but I have so much respect for the actor. I'm like, okay, you went for it. You suffered for it.
You're biting into the burger every time. Every
time. Rachel, I want to talk about this movie, Where the Day Takes You, because it was in '92 when the independent film scene was exploding, and you go from this monster production to this small independent film about homeless kids in LA. I remember being so moved by the movie. What an amazing cast. But what was that experience like?
Again, it's so funny when you first said that. I was like, oh, that sounds
what movie is that?
Will Smith. I mean, there's in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
I know, but I didn't work with everybody. I just work with, I just had my little small scenes. It's so lovely to do those films, because you're telling all size stories because they're, what actors say. I know you two know what actors say. What's the difference between a big budget movie and an independent? It's craft service. That's it.
The snacks.
The snacks are much better in a big budget, and in a craft service, it's water and tea and coffee and
some Entenmann's.
That's
right.
It's really, really minimal. But again, lovely, lovely people. I've never not worked with. I've been really lucky because I've heard from a bunch of people some stories where your jaw drops and you're like, what? Anyway, I've only worked with wonderful people. So again, that was really lovely. And my interest doesn't peak or fall by the size or the salary. It doesn't, that's not where my focus is. It's just, what is the story? It'd be nice if it's with great people. When I did Man on Fire, I remember people saying, Denzel Washington, very methody. So be prepared. He's very methody. He doesn't really talk to people. He doesn't this, that, and the other thing. And I remember thinking to myself, I could care less. I just want to, if I throw out the pitch, he's going to catch it. And if I throw it this way, he's going to catch it. And if he throws it this way, I'm going to catch it. You just want to play with the right. It is it's play. So it's you want to play with a person who wants to play and knows what they're doing. So I was like, I don't care, and he was very focused, but off the set, absolutely lovely. But man, I was like, great. Let him be focused. I'll be focused too. Let's do it. It's great.
So cool. How about, because I love that movie, and anytime it's on, it's one that you can't turn off. To me, it's it's just everything about it. What you talked about, just sort of cinematically, it looks great. The story is gripping. Everyone in it is so good. It's just, it gets you. we also caught recently, it just came on out of nowhere, Falling Down.
Oh,
And that is such a
so great.
90s
Forgot about that one.
LA movie, right? Like that movie.
It also still works.
It still works.
Really? I haven't seen it in so many years, but it was
It still
impactful.
works because it's a crazy, you feel so bad for his character. You feel
Right.
so bad for Michael Douglas because you realize
Right.
he's gone. And
Yeah, he's gone.
Doesn't, like all my scenes were with Robert Duvall. Where could I complain?
I mean, the people you've worked with is
You've
insane.
played with the greatest players to ever live. It's unreal.
Can I just tell you something? I still haven't worked with Al Pacino, but I've worked with every man of the Corleone family in The Godfather.
Wait,
Every
Brando?
single one.
Brando too?
I did a film with Brando called Don Juan DeMarco.
Oh,
That's
we got to talk
right.
about that. Yeah.
This is insane.
Yep.
You've got to do something with Pacino.
I know I have to. I'm like, he's the only one. I did a film with Andy Garcia, Still Big, Still Little. I worked as a PA on Raging Bull, so I count that with Robert De Niro because that's when he was really gaining weight. So I had to go get his food like every 5 minutes. It was like, what do you want? Shake? Okay, hamburger.
You were getting De Niro food to gain weight for Raging Bull?
I was for one day, I was his assistant because his assistant had to go pick up somebody from his family at the airport or whatever. And she was like, you have to take care of Bobby. And I was like, all right. And I was like, what do you need? He was like, I'd like, so it was like, okay, let me go get it.
Cheeseburgers, milkshakes.
It was food, a lot of food. So I worked with him. I worked with Andy. I worked with James Caan on a film for Showtime. What the heck was it called? I can't remember. He was like Jerry Lewis, like you think he's going to be this intense guy. He's this Jewish guy from Queens. You're like, first of all, I thought you were Italian. He goes, I know, everybody thinks. But
I wonder why.
well, I didn't work with John Cassell because John Cassell had passed away.
Passed away so young, yeah.
Robert Duvall, Marlon Brando, the whole.
Wow.
I know.
Falling Down was such a great movie, man.
Wonderful film. A really wonderful film. And that, I see his face, but I can't remember the director's name now.
Was it Joel Schumacher?
Joel Schumacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Joel Schumacher. But what a strange, he's the St. Elmo's Fire guy, and now he's doing this psychological breakdown of a man.
And then he didn't really work too much afterwards, I don't think. I'm not quite sure. He was very into design. He was such a great storyteller and really funny and very embracing of everybody. But it would be Bobby Duvall would be like it would go cut, and then he would say, "I had the greatest steak last night." And they cook it and they put this thing, and he would just go on and on and on. And they were like, "Okay, first positions," and then they would go and then he would stop and they'd say action, and then he was back to the character, and it so threw me off. Like the first 5 times, I was like, do me a favor. Don't talk to me about food. Like the food stuff, you're like doing that. And then it's easy for you to go in and out like this. But I don't even have a moment to I'm still thinking about the steak. Like stop with the food.
And Duvall's telling people Rachel's very method. It's all a sliding scale.
But it was, he was an absolute, but he's a master.
A master.
Oh,
but the master was Brando. And so, to me, I was beyond nervous. Beyond. He was my guy. He was the. So they had this read through around the table, a cast read through. And I go and I look at the thing and they fucking put me right next to him. And I was like,
wow.
I'm not going to be able to do this. This is going to be really hard. And he was late, and everybody's around the table. Johnny Depp. The movie's about
Johnny
Depp.
Johnny Depp didn't intimidate you at all.
No. He didn't intimidate me at all. And I had to go to the bathroom a million times. So I go to the bathroom again, and while I'm in the bathroom, they go, "Marlon's here," and I was like,
"Oh boy,
I just can't. I can't." Anyway, so I go out. And they introduced me, and he must have sensed how nervous I was because he was really large then. He took his hands and he put his hand on top of my head and he just sort of to calm me down. He just went, "Hey, how you doing?" And it totally calmed me down. And I was like, "I'm good."
Wow, that's so kind.
Like the icebreaker. I'm just a cuddly guy.
Because I think that these people like Paul Newman, like Marlon Brando, their fame was very different than the fame that came to people after.
Yeah.
They were part of like the creation of films, even though they weren't the creation of films, but they were the creation of like gigantic movie stars. Do you know what
They
I
were
mean?
living legends. They
They
were
were
legends
living-
while they
You're
were still
right.
working.
Especially somebody
You're
like
so right.
Brando, where it was like acting changed because of him. Like
Right.
he's the one. He was the lead.
Yes.
He was like the master. He was like Michelangelo of the of the actors, and he was really. And the director was a first-time director, and he said, "Oh my God, can I tell this story?"
Yeah.
In the read-through, there were people that were playing various different roles, and the director would ask everybody, "And does anybody have any notes about that scene?" Like, who the fuck is going to give a note to? I'm not giving any notes. Any scene. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, this girl who was, I think she was Italian, she was European, and she said, "Oh, I have a note," and I thought, "Oh my,
Oh,
what's she going to say?" And she had a criticism about the scene between Marlon and Johnny and how they had done the scene.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody in the room, just the way you just did, Christine,
No.
everybody sat back in their chair like, "Oh God." And
Like holding your breath.
And Brando just looked at her and he said, "Are you fucking the director?"
Oh my God.
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
That takes guts.
She was fired.
Oh,
To give notes to Brando and Johnny Depp.
I'm sure she wasn't fired because of that, because other people were fired. You know, like when they say it's just a read through, you just relax, don't worry.
Oh.
I can't tell you how many I've done where people have been fired from them. So it's like, don't relax so much. My thing is, don't relax so much.
don't.
Not so. The job is still on the line. So
Any of us can be fired at any time.
any of us can be fired.
Right. And Brando can put his hand on your head, but you probably shouldn't do it to him.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh gosh. This has been amazing. I mean, we could talk to you forever.
I know.
Oh my God, it's already time. I was like, what am I going to talk to these people about? This is going to be like, blah.
No, it's see, look, you remember things. And also when I'd like to see you in real life too.
And I'm here. Okay, so we'll
Yeah.
talk.
Yes. We're are we still neighbors? Are we still close?
Yes.
Great. Perfect.
Even better.
Even better.
This was so great. When you texted me last week, it was like, are you by any chance? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's why I have such good people in my life where I'm like, hey, you can so say no, but we'd love to have you come on. You're like, yeah, I'll be there.
This was
2
lovely.
o'clock? Great.
Yeah. This was my favorite podcast. I'm no longer.
And you're honestly one of my favorite guests. What are the amazing stories? Thank you so much.
Thank
You are the
you.
best. The best. I love you so much. Give
Take
my
care.
shithead bestie, your other half, a big hug.
I will. And yours also.
Okay. Love you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Rachel. Wait, can I call you shithead or is that rude?
Sure. I was like, how did I earn this term of endearment from Peter Strauss of Rich Man, Poor Man? Like I grew up watching.
It reminds me of the movie The Jerk,
Yeah.
where he says, don't call that dog Lifesaver,
of
call him
course.
shithead.
I know. It was, I think it really honestly came from me like being sarcastic about something to him. Like I was giving him a hard time, as you know I do with people.
Right.
And he was like, okay, shithead. And I think that's where it was like, I was like, I love it. I'll
It
take
stuck. Yeah, that's a good one.
it. But isn't she the best? She's just the best.
She's just a sweet, beautiful, lovely person. But like I cannot believe the people she's worked with and the trajectory and the stories. Oh my God.
And she just continues to work. Like if you turn on episodes of TV shows from, Grey's Anatomy to like, she's just always working. And I just love what she said. Because I don't think most people feel that way, honestly. When she said, I actually love to audition. And she gave us all the reasons why, like getting to really connect with the material, see if you're connecting with the director or the people who you might be working with.
Right.
Being able to take a deep dive into the material in that way. And she embraces it. And I think that's amazing. And it sounds to me like she's just like a a worker horse. Like she has been, and she comes back here to New York and directs this show at LaGuardia High School every single year.
Amazing.
And she gives back because that's where she also went to high school, I believe, which we didn't talk about, but that's just also been her way of giving back. And she's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? I don't know why people mind auditioning for a good project. It's just
no, of course. No,
but,
and also it's when you get offered something, it's always like, oh my God, what a gift, because it's the auditioning does take, it's so much work and it's so arbitrary, right? Like it's really like you're putting yourself out there, and I can't take it personally if they say no, like
right. But maybe an actor wants to get some FaceTime with the director and say, is this guy know what he's doing? Is he an asshole? Is he cool? Is he
that's what I thought was great, that she said it's about how I can connect with it. It's less about what they want from me, but do I connect with this? I thought that was great.
I love that she starred with Paul Newman in Fort Apache and then went back on as a PA.
I know. On Reds and on
oh my
on
gosh,
it's so
unbelievable.
great.
She should write a book.
No, she's amazing. Great chat. Thanks everybody for listening. Really such good 90s stuff too.
Yeah,
some fun movies to go back and watch for sure.
Yeah. Oh my, I want to watch Don Juan DeMarco again.
I know, so many good ones. All right, everybody, thank you for listening, and come back next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe and give us 5 stars.
And please follow us on Instagram at Hey Dude, the 90s Called. See you next time.